she was born in 1989, okay? And at this time, she is 29 years old. So she is a middle child. She has two sisters. So in about, I believe it was 2009, that she went to a funeral, and we're gonna come back to this funeral because, whoop, let me tell you what I just found out. And there was a man at the funeral. His name is Andre. So her name is Audrey, and her to-be husband's name is Andre. So Andre actually lives in San Antonio, Texas, but he flew to Jamaica for this funeral. At this time, Audrey is 19 years old and Andre is 29 years old. They meet, they hit it off, their relationship moves very fast, like very fast, and she ends up moving to San Antonio, Texas to be with Andre, and they get married, the whole shtick. At 21 years old, she wants to start her own business, so she gets into retirement homes and opens up her own assisted living facility that started off as a really small business and that grew to have a couple different locations. Now, to start her business at 21 years old with Andre did put a lot into the business as well. He provided the money and she had the idea, I guess you can say. So he sold, his luxury BMW car and he liquidated his 401k to start this business. And it was really successful. Audrey, she did conferences and talks, and she had a spirit about her that wanted to give back and help others. So she would always do annual trips to Jamaica, doing her philanthropy work and giving back in that way, which was so beautiful. She had a very supportive family, good friends around, so she had a really strong sense of community. Now, between Audrey and Andre, you would think that they were just so destined to be together. They would joke around, play around, laugh with each other. They just looked like two best friends. There's videos of, her carrying him on her back and them just laughing, and you would think that they were so in love, but things are not always as they seem, unfortunately. Sometimes love can take a very dark turn and go really, really bad. They had, various activities that they like to do together. One, they would do marathons, and they love doing marathons. Now, I believe over the span of about 7 years, it's, all the work that they put into the retirement home business, and it became a multi-million-dollar business. Now, Andre did actually have his actual career. Andre worked on the Air Force Base as a cyber warfare analyst, so he had his actual career while Andre managed the retirement home business. So we see on surveillance camera one night Andre at a gas station, and he's on his phone and he's texting, and he seems to be texting with Audrey. This is the night of her disappearance, and on this text exchange there are accusations of cheating. Audrey apparently texted him like, if you bring up Aubin again, which I'm going to talk about who's Aubin, we're going to talk about Aubin. If you bring up Aubin again, I'm gonna, file for divorce. So Aubin is a Jamaican businessman and Audrey's teenage boyfriend. Now they split up, they separated, and after Audrey met Andre at the funeral and, moved on with her life, she went back to Jamaica for one of her philanthropic trips and reconnected with Aubin. Aubin is successful in his own right, but I guess on this meeting they, rekindled, and one thing led to another, and they started to have an affair. So it started in 2017 and up until summer 2018. So this was going on for some time. She would take trips to Jamaica and see Aubin, and it got really, really rude because Audrey actually got a tattoo of an A on her hand and a date on her wrist. Now you can say her name is Audrey, maybe she just got A for her first name, but no. was his birth date, March 14th, 1976. So rude. She was having this affair with her teenage boyfriend and got a tattoo of his initial, the A, at his birth date. Now, Audrey found this out, and of course he was livid. The idea of getting a divorce isn't something that Audrey wanted to do because she didn't want to risk losing half of her business, because obviously Audrey put his own money into starting up the company, so he is part owner, and she didn't want to lose everything that she worked for. There were arguments between them about who made this business and who made it successful. She was saying, this business would have never happened if it wasn't for me, like, moving my butt to make it happen, my work ethic, my drive, and implementing this. Sure, you helped out with the money to get it started, but I'm the brain power behind this, Apparently, Audrey talked to her friend, and she knew that what she was doing was not smart. She knew that she literally said, like, I know that it's dumb, like, what I'm doing, but, yeah, she didn't want to get a divorce because Audrey did threaten divorce. And, his conditions were that if you go back to Jamaica for these philanthropic trips, I'm going with you every time. And mind you, I want to also mention the fact that she and Audrey did share a daughter together. They did have a baby girl. Audrey was very, very close and protective, of her daughter. The conditions were, yeah, I'm coming with you to your Jamaica trips. You can't go there alone. And these tattoos, you have to get them covered up. Disconnect from Aubin completely. Don't contact him anymore. Block him. I don't care what you do. Erase him from your life. And we can find a way to move forward from this. So, Andre's 40th birthday rolled around, and there is actual footage of them at the birthday party. And everything seemed fine. Like, nobody would suspect that they were arguing and things weren't good behind closed doors. But 13 days later, she went missing, and it's also important to note that I believe it was before Christmas, the night before Christmas, actually. They were planning on, having family and friends over and things like this. And one friend came over to their house that night. He was staying over with them, and he literally walked into the kitchen and saw these two on the floor, like, wrestling, fighting with each other. And he was shocked. And obviously, like, him being there, they stopped. But the next day, Audrey and Audrine, they were laughing and joking about that fight that happened the night before. Very strange. But anyways, so when Audrine goes missing, this is very unusual. Like I said, she's very close to her daughter, always has her daughter with her pretty much, unless her daughter is at school. So, the mom is trying to contact her daughter, and they're very close, right? So they talk every day, a few times a day. Can't get into contact. So she reports her daughter missing. The deputy arrives at the house, and automatically there's, like, suspicion, but they try to contact Audrey first to be like, where is she? And, doesn't she answer her phone? This is not enough for us. So the deputies, the investigators, go to the hospital and they find out that sure, there's a McDonald there, but it's not Audrey. It's another totally random person that just happens to share the last name. So now they're on his trail. They're on his trail. At this time, Andre stops answering his phone and he contacts a lawyer, which is what they always do when they know that they're in some deep trouble. Okay, so now his house is gonna be searched, and there's like a clump of hair that's like found some blood on the wall. Okay, Andrene's mom is there at the house, and they go into the back and they see like a burn pile, and they see a zipper from one of Andrene's blouses. So something is so not right here. And Andre's not talking, and they do a search of his car, and they find like an axe, they find a shovel, they hatchet, bags, gas cans. I mean, this just is giving him away. And in fact, Andre was caught on surveillance camera. I don't know what store he was in. Was it Home Depot? Some store he was in where he was purchasing these supplies right around the time when Andre goes missing. They find in the garbage can a hammer and some clothes with blood on it. Andre's own mother, when she's hearing this news, she's in shock. Now, the one thing I will credit his mother on not doing is defending her son. Sometimes you'll see in certain cases where the mom is like, oh no, my son could never be capable of this, even when he is found guilty with actual evidence. They're like, no, my son is a good man. The mom didn't do this. The mom was completely devastated and shocked, and the entire family, even Andre's mom, was in shock that there's no way that Andre could have ever hurt her. Even if they were not getting along, whatever problems they had, this could not be a possibility. Okay, but this was not adding up, and they couldn't find Audrey. So now there is a search party that's sent out to look for Audrey, and they covered hundreds of miles all around. One detective was explaining that what you're looking for when you're out there in the wilderness, like branches that are pulled away, fresh tire tracks, things like this that would give some clues, but they couldn't find her. And at this time, Andre is released from prison on bond, and he takes over the retirement home. He takes over the management for the retirement home, and he did not help out in looking for her. He did not take part in any of the search teams, which you think that if your wife is missing, you would want to find her. He had zero interest in going out there to find his wife. It's surfaced some past text messages that Audrey shared with her friend, saying that how they were arguing, how I mentioned earlier about how they were talking about who's actually responsible for this business and whatever. And Audrey texted her friend saying that, things are really bad between us. Someone's going to snap. 133 days after Audrey's disappearance, there was a farmer that was looking about his property, and he saw like a skull of a cow on his property. But then next to that skull of the cow, he found a human skull, which, when tested, it did come back as Audrey. When I hear Audrey's mother talking about this, you can still tell that she is obviously clearly in a shock, but not just in a shock of what happened to her daughter, but just shocked about who did this to her. That Andre was actually, like, it's insane. And this leads me to another part of this conversation that we're gonna talk about now. Because when I look at the comments, I like to look at what people think about these cases. And it leads to, is it something in the culture? I don't know. I will say this. Remember I mentioned a funeral? Maybe something in the bloodline in the family, I don't know. Or it's the culture, I don't know. Audrey's father, he was married, he had a first wife. This funeral was a funeral of his father's wife. His father took this woman's life, and Audrey did what? Followed in his father's footsteps. It's just so crazy that they met at this funeral of this woman, and that Audrey would end up with the same fate. Oh my goodness, how? But like that just like what? So like I said, they met in 2009 at the funeral of his father's first wife because he killed her in 2009, and then he was able to still live his life or be out or something to kill another woman, his current wife that he had in 2020, 1 year after Audrey died. How absolutely insane is that? So his trial was last year. I'm sure he's never getting out of prison. And for Andre, I think he was sentenced to 20 years in prison, which is insane that you can be sentenced to 20 years in prison. Like, you should never get out. And he had to pay like $210 million to her estate. I mean, this is just insane. Apple doesn't fall too far from this horrible tree. I just, wow. Wow. Oh man, I can't. Like I said, I believe Andre's mother is lucky that she was able to, I guess, have Andre with this man and still live and still, you know, like, this is just insane. And I have so many questions. But, man, I'm just so sorry for Audrey's daughter. Number one, it's always so tragic when kids lose both parents due to one taking out the other. And for Audrey, when I was looking over what people were saying, it was like very bold to put a tattoo and the birth date of the man that you're cheating on your husband with. That's very disrespectful, okay? But it's still, this is why it's called snapped, but it still doesn't give you the right to like take her life. But clearly there's something going on with the father and with him where they thought that this was somewhat okay to do. I don't know. You could just get the divorce that you threatened. And if you're that hurt about what she was doing, trying to take the business, I don't know, but don't take her life. You know what I mean? It's just, I just feel so, oh my goodness, I just feel so bad for her. And for her mother, her poor mother, and for his, like, it's just tragic all around. She's a beautiful young woman. And it's terrible. Whoa, unbelievable. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. But anyways, I'll see you guys next time.